So taking selfies is easy, right? However, taking a self-portrait, so an image of yourself with some kind of artistic vision or aesthetic in mind, can be really, really challenging. That's because you're the model, the photographer, the stylist, the art director, the makeup artist, the retoucher, and the photo studio assistant all in one. Now, I actually take self-portraits for a living, and I've done it for many, many years. And in this video today, I'm going to give you my 7 best tips for taking self-portraits at home. You don't need a professional studio, you don't need a photographer, you can do it all by yourself. I'm also going to give you my expert tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years for the most challenging aspects of taking self-portraits, which is focusing and remote shooting. Let's get into it. So first of all, many people ask me, how do you actually set up your camera? So my answer to this is just save yourself the headache and use a tripod. Of course, you can also just prop up your camera on a stack of books or a t-shirt or something, but it's not very stable and it can definitely fall over and you don't want to damage your camera. And then the second reason is that it's simply less annoying. Taking self-portraits is hard enough, so just whatever you can make easier for yourself, do it. And tripods are really, really cheap, so this is definitely an investment worth making. Okay, then the next big challenge with taking self-portraits is to actually trigger the shutter, because you're not behind the camera, right? So you can't just press the button, but you're in front of the camera. So you have to find a way to trigger the shutter remotely. The best method I found over the years, by far, is to use an app connected to your camera. But for that to work, you need a camera with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth compatibility. And then for most big camera brands like Sony, Canon, and so on, there will be a specific app that you can download onto your phone, and that lets you control the camera remotely. Here you can see me use this method. You can see I have my phone in my hand, and I'm controlling the camera via the phone screen. Then an alternative, if your camera doesn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or you just don't have an app available for your camera model, you can just get a remote, and that could be a wireless remote, or if you can't connect that for some reason, you can get a cable remote, of course. Nice and old-fashioned, but it works really well. Also, if you have an older camera, an analog or film camera. Again, remotes are really, really cheap, so that's another good investment for your self-portrait photography and will make the process much easier for you. Okay, before I get to the next tip, let me just quickly share something with you. If you're interested in self-portraits, I actually have a free ebook which contains 50 ideas for self-portrait photography. You can download it on my website. I'm going to share the link below in the description. Now back to the video. Okay. Challenge number 3 when taking self-portraits. For me, this one has always been the biggest challenge, really, and that is getting the focus right in your image. This is so hard because, again, you're not behind the camera. You can't manually focus, you can't nicely control the focusing. You have to find a way to do it from the other side of the camera, but luckily there are quite a few ways to do it. My favorite one, again, is using the phone app that we just talked about. The great thing with an app is that you can see yourself on the screen. So already you can compose the picture really nicely, and then you can tap on the screen wherever you want the focus to be, and the camera will focus on that. What you also want to do before you take the picture is go into your camera settings and change it to face or eye autofocus. This is really important, so don't forget it. The setting is usually called something like eye tracking, face tracking, human face detection, or something like that. And then the camera lens or the camera will automatically try and find your face in the picture and focus on it. And then if you're not using a phone app, but you're using a remote, there's one more thing also to keep in mind. The moment you take the photo, don't just press the button fully, but first half press it. Then the autofocus has time to find your eyes or your face, and then fully press it, and then that will take the photo. But always make sure to half press it before, because that will make the camera focus. Now, if you don't have autofocus, because you're using an older camera, an analog camera, there is another way. This is also the old-fashioned way. It's that you take some kind of object, let's say a tripod, and put that in the place where you are going to sit or stand. Then you manually focus on it, try and be precise, and then remove the object and sit or stand in exactly the same place. It's a little fiddly, but it does work. You might need a bit of patience for it, but yeah, it's pretty reliable. Then one more tip for focusing. This is a bit of a troubleshooting tip. Sometimes you might do everything right, but your face is still really blurry. And if that's the case, check your aperture. Sometimes if you use a very, very large aperture, so something like 1.8 or anywhere under 3, the depth of field is very shallow, meaning a very small or narrow area in your photo is actually in focus. So if your face is slightly out of that range, it's already going to be blurry. So to fix that, try choosing a smaller aperture, something from 4 upwards, and you will see then that a wider area in your picture is sharp. So there's a bigger chance that your face will also be sharp because you don't have to be quite so precise with where you place your head. Okay, then the next challenge in self-portrait photography, for sure, is posing. So I used to read a lot of fashion magazines, and I would always think, oh, it's easy, you know, they're just striking a pose, looking great, but it's actually not easy. And maybe it is for some. It's not for me. I'm not a model, obviously. So this is definitely something you have to learn or practice. It's not like everybody can just strike the perfect pose. So what I recommend you do is to keep a sort of reference folder of poses you like. For example, I like to go to museums and look at paintings, or I just go on Pinterest and find photos of poses I really like, and I collect them. And then before each photo shoot, I maybe choose 2 or 3 of those poses, and I actually practice them in front of the mirror sometimes. And this can really help you so you don't feel overwhelmed in the moment of the shoot and you don't know exactly what pose to get into. Sometimes I even hold the phone up while I shoot and actually copy the pose, because as I said, taking self-portraits can be quite stressful. So whatever element you can control, just try and control it so it's easier in the moment. If you need help with posing, because there are also certain rules, like for example, how to pose your hands, legs, arms, I'm going to link you a blog post I wrote about this topic. Maybe that's helpful for you. You're going to find it below in the description. Before I move on to the next point, please help me keep this channel alive by subscribing to it. Just hit the subscribe button now and I will be very grateful. Thank you. Okay, then the next tip is, how do you make your photos more interesting, more meaningful? And my technique for that is to develop some kind of concept. Of course, you can also take a more spontaneous approach and just take a photo whenever you feel like it. That's great too, but I like to have a bit of a plan beforehand, and it really doesn't have to be complicated. So for example, you could start with, how are you feeling today? Or any kind of emotion you're currently going through. Let me show you an example. This is a photo I took in a time when I had a bit of a crush and I felt really happy and light and airy, and I wanted to document that in a self-portrait. Next, you could also use an experience that you've had for your photo shoot, or just a period in your life that was interesting or difficult or full of joy, whatever. For example, look at this photo here. That was inspired by a period where I had some injuries and I couldn't draw or paint or create, and I felt very stifled, very creatively blocked through external forces. And so I took this photo here where the butterflies are stuck in this black liquid and they are representing that feeling of paralysis or being kind of trapped. Next, a great way to make your photos more interesting, more symbolic, is to use props. For example, I love using flowers in my photos. Here are some examples. You could also use other symbolic props like candles or a key or clocks or anything that holds some kind of symbolism, either universally or for you personally. Or finally, you can also go for more of a visual appeal in your self-portraits. So you really, let's say, focusing in on shadow patterns. So you take a photo where something casts a shadow on your face, or you really go for color and maybe you use a colored light source, or everything is in one color in the picture, your makeup, your props, your outfit. So that's another way to give your photos more visual appeal. Okay, then the next tip, again, extremely important for any photographer really, is to be strategic about your lighting. For example, if you just want very flattering, even lighting, you could shoot next to a window, a large window that has very even lighting. So not direct sunlight, but try morning or afternoon light, or even a north-facing window that doesn't get much direct sunlight or any. And that will give you a very beautiful diffused lighting. Or you can mimic that using something like a softbox. If you don't have a softbox, you can actually hang some kind of light diffusing material between your light source and yourself. Something like a white shower curtain works really well. Or maybe you want to go for more dramatic, cinematic lighting. Then don't use even diffused lighting. Instead, try and find a single light source, something like a reading lamp, a desk lamp, or anything that has harsh lighting. And then this kind of light will give you very strong shadows and it will make the light look more dramatic. Another option is going for very minimal lighting. This is also really fun. You can just try using something like fairy lights, or even look at this photo I took with just using street light. falling in through the window. So basically just using ambient light from whatever you have available. Obviously, any lighting choice is great. My tip is just think about it beforehand and really make those choices intentionally, because then you don't get the frustration of having the wrong light in the moment and not getting the photo you want. Okay, before I get to the last tip, one more thing. I'm actually putting together an online course where you learn how to take artistic self-portraits. I go into way more detail than here. If you want to be part of this, make sure to sign up for the waitlist. I'm going to link it below as well, and I'll let you know when the course is available. Okay, and my final tip is to really learn how to edit your photos. You don't have to become a Photoshop master, but just learn how to do basic things like cropping, straightening, adjusting the exposure, and removing distracting details. Another thing that can really help you is learning how to color grade your images. I've made a whole video where I show my color grading process. I'm going to link it. I find that color grading is that kind of one thing that makes my photos look professional rather than amateur. So yeah, invest a little bit of time into learning how to edit your pictures. I personally use Photoshop, but you don't have to. You could even use a free app if you use your phone camera. I really like Snapseed. It's like a 5-minute thing and it will really improve your photos. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you found these tips helpful. Make sure to leave me a comment if there's any topic you would like to hear more about, and I'll see you next time. Bye!